call. Hi, so happy to be here. So happy to be a part of DeLauné's life. I have come from Los Angeles to have the honor to participate. So I wrote this book called I, Lorelei, and the publisher, I didn't actually write it to be a children's book. I thought it would be, in my mind, it was a book about life from a child's point of view, and then HarperCollins bought it and informed me that it was a children's book. And I begged them to say, and they wanted to market it to ages 8 to 12, and I said, well, oh gee, that's such a box, couldn't we make it 8 and up? And they said, well, sometimes we do that, but the Library Association or something like that has to vote. And apparently they voted no. So it's, they market it to ages 8 to 12, but it really it has a much broader reach than that. There's so much stuff in there for grown-ups, and so I tell you that because as I was leafing through, because it was published in January of this year, and as I was leafing through, there were so many great chapters that I wanted to read you, and I don't say that to blow my own horn, but because I feel that artists often they don't enjoy the work that they've done. I think humans often don't enjoy the work that they've done, and so I just sort of felt, at the age of 45, that it was time to give myself credit for a job well done in the same way that you would, if you cook a fabulous meal, or you've had a great day of parenting, or you have accomplished anything that you feel proud of doing. So anyway, I love this book. It's really fun and funny. So anyway, so Lorelei's 11, and the book is her diary, but instead of writing Dear Diary, she is writing letters to her recently deceased cat named Mud. And what else do I need to tell you? Oh, so this is about halfway through the book, and what's happened is it's just sort of a daily log, and then Lorelei's life begins to fall apart, her parents' marriage, rather. But Lorelei has this incredible resilience and this fantastic sense of humor, and you get to see that as she and her brothers deal with the ground shifting under their feet. So her father, his name is Theo, and he was a very successful lawyer, and he decided he would quit his job because he felt like it, and he would make beer in the attic because that's what he's passionate about. And meanwhile, her parents have also separated, and so he's now moved out. And the other thing you need to know is that he comes back every so often and takes pieces of furniture for his new apartment. And that's all you need to know. So there will be a few little inserts in the narrative as I read, so that I don't have to explain all the characters to you and expect you to remember them. I think that'll be better that way. Okay. So at the top of each chapter, Lorelei used to have her horoscope, then she realized the horoscope was completely irrelevant to her life and never proved to be true. That annoyed her, so she went on to learning a word each day. Tuesday, November 22nd, 7:10 a.m. Word of the day, excruciating, adjective. 1, extremely painful, either physically or emotionally. 2, intolerably embarrassing, tedious, or irritating. Dropping a brick on your big toe is not only clumsy, it's excruciating. Dear Mud, I just talked to my dad. He said he misses us a ton. I miss you too. Why don't you come home, I asked him. Well, your mom and I still have some stuff to work out. What stuff? Oh, Peanut, it's complicated, my father sighed. And since I can't seem to hold anything in these days, I just said, is it about that woman, that red-headed woman I saw you on the street with? Immediately, I wished I hadn't asked that question, because deep down, I didn't really want to know the answer, which I knew was yes. No, it's not about her, said Dad. What? Well, now I was confused. But what about that big fight that you and Mom had? Sweetie, there's a lot of stuff I can't answer right now. Not because I don't want to, but because I just don't have the answers. What I can tell you is, you're my girl, and I love you to bits. I love you, I love you, I love you, he sang. It made me laugh. I love you too, Dad. And no matter what happens down the road, that is never going to change, he said. Well, what does that mean? I wondered. It's just like grown-ups to get your hopes up, then freak you out with a sudden reminder that disappointment is right around the corner. My older brother, Teddy, he grabbed the phone. Hey, Dad, Happy, our new nanny? She bottled all the beer up in the attic, and I put labels on them. Want me to bring some up to Aunt Lee's this weekend? No! Hollered Dad, loud enough that Teddy had to hold the phone away from his ear. Okay, don't have a coronary, man. Dad said something else. Teddy rolled his eyes and said, okay, I won't, and handed the phone back to me. Dad, you're coming up to Aunt Lee's for sure, aren't you? Of course. Hot dog! Are you coming on the train with us tomorrow? Well, that's the plan, he said. You never got to meet Aunt Lee, Mud, but you would have loved her. She lives in a huge house on her very own hill, which overlooks 2 other hills in Merritt, New York. That's right, Merritt, just like Dad's and Teddy's middle names. The town is about an hour north of New York City. I looked it up on the map. Mom likes to tell people that Aunt Lee comes from the wealthy side of Dad's family. I don't know why she always does that. States the obvious. As though nobody is paying attention but her. It is excruciatingly irritating. Aunt Lee is really my dad's aunt, which makes her my great aunt. And if you notice, we share the name Lee. Dad says, absolutely, I get it from her. But Mom says, I get it from Marilyn Monroe's character in her favorite movie, Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. And it's just a happy coincidence that Dad's aunt shares the very same name. And I say, who cares? Your soon-to-be train-traveling pal, Lorelei Lee Connolly. A little bit later, 9:38 p.m. Boy, you wouldn't think so much could happen between the hours of breakfast and dinner. First, Dad came back while we were at school and took the dining room table and the toaster. He left the chairs, which looked like a bunch of rejects at a school dance, now that there's no table to pull up to. When Teddy saw the situation, he came into the kitchen where me and Mom were, and he said, "How could you let Dad take our stuff?" "Well, I guess he needed it," Mom shrugged, as she took a box of mini pizzas out of the freezer. "Well, we need it too," my brother shouted. All of a sudden, the air got sticky still. I looked up and saw Mom turn in slow motion to face Teddy. It was creepy. Her voice was low and dangerous, but clear as water. "Don't you dare mouth off to me. If you have a problem with your father, I suggest you take it up with him." Then she slammed the cookie sheet she was holding on top of the stove with an ear-splitting clang. End of discussion. Teddy and I skedaddled up to our rooms. When we were alone, I told him I thought he had a good point, and it wasn't fair of Mom to bawl him out just for asking a question, even if he did ask it a tad loudly. And you know what he said, Mud? "Thanks." Teddy actually thanked me, which just goes to show you that even though he's my brother, he's not a complete waste of food. In other news, little brother Ryan was suspended from preschool for, quote, "inciting a riot," end quote. At least, that's what the note pinned to his collar said. Mom said it's just his teacher, Miss Amarinda's overly dramatic way of saying, "My little brother doesn't play well with others." I know what you're thinking, Mud. Ryan is the friendliest kid in the world. Well, the trouble started last week when he announced to the world that he'd only answer to Bob from now on. And if you forgot and called him Ryan by accident, he wouldn't ignore you. He'd yell, "My name is Bob!" until you were deaf. Therefore, when Ryan Bob led his classmates in a take off your trousers and be a screaming hippo contest, at nap time, Ms. Amarinda was plain fed up. Which is how my little brother got suspended from preschool and sent home with a note pinned to his person. But if you think about it, it's not Ryan's fault. It's Happy's. She's the one who renamed him Bob. So if the world were a fair place, Happy would pay the price somehow. And you know what, Mud? Sometimes the world is a fair place. It's the only explanation for the FBI showing up at our house this afternoon looking for her. Not because she renamed Ryan, of course, but apparently because she's wanted in 14 states and Mexico for stealing people's everything. What do you mean? Asked my mother. I was sitting on the living room floor where the sofa used to be before Dad took that. And I was doing my homework when the FBI arrived. Special Agent Yo reached into his dark overcoat and handed my mom a photo. "Is this the woman you know as Happy De Niro?" he said. Yes, my mother said. "Well, ma'am, her real name is Pearl Munson, a.k.a. the polar bear, for her ability to hide in plain sight despite her very large size. She's head of the Lifters, a notorious international gang that has stolen over $3 million, at least that we know of." One hand flew to my mother's mouth while she stood there hanging onto the front door with the other. Freezing November air flooded into the house. "Is Miss Munson here, ma'am?" asked Agent Yo. Yes, my mother whispered. And with that, 4 men in black windbreakers with FBI painted on their backs in shiny yellow letters suddenly appeared at the front door. My mother let them in. Minutes later, they were escorting Happy/Pearl through the house in handcuffs, while Ryan clung with all his might to the leg of one of the agents, crying himself blue. "Ma'am, a little help?" said the agent as they paused in the doorway, and my mother pried my little brother loose. Happy bent down so that she was at Ryan's level. "Bob, dude, don't you worry about me. It's okay. I'm gonna be fine," she said. And for a second, Ryan stopped bawling. Then he cocked his head back, filled his belly with air, and wailed, "What about Bob?" Happy/Pearl latched onto Agent Yo and said, "Get me the hell out of here." "Toodaloo, Pearl," Teddy called as he jogged down the hallway. "Toodaloo, toodaloo," I giggled, catching the one-eyebrowed nanny's dirty look, and off they went. Mom closed the front door and looked at us with huge, miserable eyes. "Happy De Niro? Oh my God. How could I miss something so obvious?" she whimpered, holding her head on with her hands. I thought she was just about to cry, but instead she let loose this deep, come-from-your-butt laugh, and plunk she fell to her knees. Next thing I knew, we were all on the living room floor, rolling around like potato bugs, laughing ourselves empty. All except Ryan/Bob. That is, he was still upset. He stood over us, hands on tiny hips, and said, "It's not funny. I hope you all get eaten by goblin turds." What? That doesn't even make any sense, I said. Too late. My little brother had stomped off to his room already. What a day, Mud. What a day. I know I should be worn out, but I am full of soup, as Grandpa used to say. Oh boy, I can't wait to get on the train and go to Aunt Lee's tomorrow. The only bummer is Dad won't be traveling up with us after all. Now he's driving up on his own, and he won't get there until Thanksgiving Day. But at least he's coming, and then we'll be together as a family again. I just know that once Mom and Dad spend some time with each other, they'll be reminded of how much better it is when we're all together, and Dad will come right home. How do I know these things, you ask? I just do. In fact, you've probably noticed that I'm writer about more things than most 11-year-olds. Oh, Mud, now that you're gone, I feel terrible about leaving sweet Kitty Greenbean here all by herself. I got down on the floor with her tonight and explained that my best friend Jenny and her sisters June and January are coming over to feed her and play with her while we're away. And you know what she did? Greenbean reached out with her paw and touched my hand. It was like she was people and telling me that she'll be okay. But would you check on her anyway, Mud? You know, just to make sure she doesn't get too lonely. She'll know you're there. She's smart that way. And besides, everybody knows cats can see angels. Your train-traveling chum, Lorelei.
so deliberately. You should put it on tape using your own voice.
Thank you. I'm going to tell HarperCollins that you said so. That I should put the book on tape. Thank you. Any other questions? People always ask me if the book is autobiographical, and it's not. I did grow up in Washington, D.C., where it takes place, but Lorelei is basically who I wish I had been at 11. She's far more optimistic and sort of take no prisoners than I was, so I enjoy that about her very much. Yes?
Do you know any 11-year-olds who have that kind of personality?
No, the question is, do I know any 11-year-olds who have a personality like Lorelei? No, but it's funny, I was taking this writing class because I'm an actress and I used to do lots and lots of on-camera work, and now I don't get as much on-camera work as I used to, and I don't know why, and yet I have this ferocious need to create all the time, or I feel like a waste of food. So I was taking this writing class, and you have to bring something in each week to read. And I'm sort of good with the deadline, so I started writing these vignettes in the voice of this girl who got to say all of the things that in my family we just didn't ever talk about anything. It was quite a quiet household, actually. And so and she just was fantastic. And real writers will tell you this, that when you write, if you can get out of your own way, your characters will actually tell you things, and it's like channeling, and it's fascinating. So once I was able to sort of start the process, I had an outline which kind of went out the window about halfway through, because Lorelei would be like, yeah, that's all really well and good, but listen, here's how it's going to go. And then you would just write this stuff, and it wasn't, it didn't mean that it came out letter perfect, but it was enthralling. I absolutely loved it. Thank you. Yes?
I love the language that you used from the from the perspective of an 11-year-old. Skedaddle is just the kind of word that an 11-year-old girl would use in her diary. And I wonder how you pick where you have to write as a younger person in that voice. And there's certain words that little girls at that age find very dear, and finding excruciating and finding a word in the dictionary that will become hers, and she'll use it the right way, and she'll take pride in using it the right way. And how did you find or figure out what kind of words you wanted to use to make sure that she was really at that age and not too grown up and not too young?
The question is basically how do you write as an 11-year-old if you're 45 and or at the time 43 or whatever it was, and how do you walk that fine line of language where it's not too young and not too old? And I have a great I have a great love of language, though I'm well, never mind. But I do have this love of language, and I'll say something, I'll have an expression. My family was very formal, so they had all these fantastic expressions that I can pass off to the grandfather, like full of soup, and tickety-boo, she uses that word, and these are all expressions that I heard growing up, and so I have this odd kind of old school lexicon of words, and I don't know, there's just, again, it's a little bit of that thing where you start off, because I never thought it would be a children's book, so I wrote what I love about Lorelei's voice is that it is, there's no filter and there's no commentary. I would say more than which words to choose, just don't comment on what's going on. Just the facts, ma'am. So, and that really served me well, so that because you can get too precious if you start to sort of wink at the audience. She's just going to tell you how it goes and how it feels inside of her. And because it's a diary, we could really get into the heart and mind of that girl. And but I did struggle sometimes thinking. And then I just thought, and it's funny, and then I won't take up too much time, but my editors would say, I don't know, Yeardley, I don't know if, that seems a little too sophisticated. I don't know if, gee whiz. And they wanted a kinder, happier, more Hannah Montana book. And I said, first of all, I wrote the whole manuscript before they bought it, so it wasn't as though I wrote an outline and then delivered this book, and they went, what is that? So they knew what it was, and I would, if I never get another book published, it's totally fine. That this is the story I wanted to tell, and my theory is always right up, that your audience is incredibly bright, and whatever they don't know, they will find out about. And if they're not worried about it, they won't inquire about it, and all will be well. And each child and audience member at their various level or level of inquisition will take their own path. You don't have to micromanage it so much. So trust them. And again, I feel if you write the truth, like my favorite compliment I've gotten from young people is, it's real. And I think, oh, thank God. That just gives me little chills all up and down my body. So, thank you. One more? No.
I was just going to ask, it sounds like you have another book in you, or maybe 6, and I was wondering what you're working on now.
Oh, well, I'm about to go to Michigan and executive produce a film, which should be hilarious. Having never really done that before. This book actually, it was conceived as a trilogy. I have 2 other Lorelei books, and although nobody's bought book 2, so I'm not under a deadline, but and then I was like, why isn't this getting done? And this wonderful author named Natalie Perkins, who writes young adult fiction, said, well, Yeardley, you do have a full-time job. I'm like, because you're not actually a writer by profession. And I was like, oh, well, I'm going to petition for 30 hours in a day because I think that would help me out. But I loved it. I have to say, this is one of my favorite things that I've ever done. I wrote it for myself. It was so satisfying, and I love this girl. So thank you for asking that. And thank you all so much. It's really fun.